Russell Brand's denied all allegations against him, released a video on Friday denouncing aggressive media outlets in anticipation of the claims.
I've received two extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. There are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack.
Well, the allegations against Brand are serious and, of course, potentially criminal. Is the media, though, the right place for that debate? Joining me now is Daily Mail columnist Sarah Vine, lawyer Chris Daw KC, and associate editor of the Mirror, Kevin Maguire. Welcome to all of you. Sarah, you fired off a column very quickly, which I completely concurred with, which is whatever you think of Russell Brand, and you were pretty scathing about your character assessment of him, it doesn't change the fact that, like everybody in this country, in a democratic society, he should be entitled to due process.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, because we've seen this happen with lots of people where things are said, their careers are destroyed, and then, turns out 5 years later they hadn't done any of the stuff that they were accused of, or they've done some of it but not all of it, and it wasn't quite as bad as it looked. And I've never liked Russell Brand. I always thought he was a bit of a scumbag. I wouldn't have even gotten a lift with him, let alone gone to his house or done anything with him, because it was clear. He was always. People keep saying that he was hiding in plain sight. I don't think he was at all. He was very obviously not a very nice man.
Look, I interviewed him multiple times, and he was pretty open about his love of having sex with as many women as possible.
Yeah, and he was.
The question here is, has he strayed into criminality?
Well, that's the thing, and that is going to be. That is what needs to be established. He needs to have a fair hearing, and not in a sort of feverish media environment with people tweeting and all this kind of stuff. That is no way to determine a person's guilt or innocence.
Well, my issue with it, Kevin, is that when you have language on social media calling the people who made the allegations victims and survivors, you are prejudging his criminal guilt. You're saying that all these allegations are true. They are victims of a crime. But we're not at that stage yet. We're at the stage still of allegation reported in media. And I do have a problem with that. I think we've got to be very careful about language that's used.
Yeah, they're alleged victims. They are his accusers. That's what they are. And I hope it does end up in court so it can all be tested and it gets due process. Now, whether it does or not, I don't know. And you mentioned earlier, fewer than 1% of reported rapes end up in a conviction. And the victims who do get their day in court have to wait more than 2 years for their justice. I think the Sunday Times, the Times, Channel 4, it's fantastic public interest, investigative journalism that is incredibly forensic. They will have gone through legal hoop after legal hoop. You know that?
Well, it's a four-year investigation. I read it with my old newspaper editor hat on, and I thought it was an exemplary investigation.
And they have given a voice to women who, for whatever reason, felt they wouldn't get anywhere with the police.
Yeah,
now, he
and
of course,
as I said
denies
earlier,
everything.
Harvey Weinstein is in prison because women went to journalists, right? So let's be clear, journalism plays a very powerful role in a lot of these cases. So I don't agree with all the press bashing. I think the Sunday Times dispatches did this very professionally and thoroughly. However, Chris, that doesn't mean to say that the allegations are true. As a lawyer, as a KC, when you're looking at the way this is all playing out, how concerned are you about Russell Brand's ability to get a fair trial?
Well, I don't think you could make this up. We're here in a television studio analysing in public the behaviour of somebody through the lens of media reporting by a different media outlet. This, for me, the problem here is not about fairness or otherwise of trials, because the reality is, I suspect, based on what I've seen, it's highly improbable that he'll face trial, at least in England. Well, for a number of reasons. One, because of the lack of credible evidence in the criminal and forensic sense of the word. Two, because of the passage of time. And three, and this is the real crux of this debate, the dangers of all of this prejudicial publicity. There has been so much publicity, which is so damaging and so negative. And if this were a live criminal investigation in law, as you know better than I do, all of you know as journalists, you couldn't say any of these things.
But it's not.
Because contempt of court
but
would be
it's not, is it? It's not.
It's not, and that's always been the reason why papers, to this point, can continue to investigate and publish. On a slightly different legal point, a lot of people have said to me, In the case of the 16-year-old girl, and he was 30, yes, legally, no crime appears to have been committed in that particular instance, potentially grooming, I guess. I mean, there may be some laws which could pertain to that aspect. But is it right, some people are asking, that a 16-year-old girl could give consent in that situation? Is it time to look at the law of consent and raise it
The age of consent? No, I don't.
Because she can get married at 16, right?
Yeah, well, you can get married and join the army at 16, but and so for limited purposes.
But does that case raise any issues for you?
No, listen, I'm not going to speak about the facts of an individual allegation because I think that's the exact mistake that too many people are getting into, particularly lawyers who should know better. Okay, I can't comment on the allegations themselves. But so far as the idea that a 30-year-old man can have a consensual relationship with a 16-year-old young woman, the law says that. I don't think it's. I don't think it's a subject I know enough about, but I would say that, frankly, the age of consent is probably...
Sarah, you're not a lawyer, so you can come off
I'm not a lawyer, but I'd say it was morally pretty reprehensible.